Welcome to Soul Circuit. I'm Sherry, and I'm simply here to harmonize with you as we explore what wants to unfold. This is a field of resonance, a place to pause, breathe, and remember the truth already alive in you. Today we're going to explore soul contracts. Who made soul-level agreements with you before birth? I want to share a story of my son, Jonathan, who came into my world through the process of adoption. And I didn't know it then, but I know a bit more now through all of my experience and studying and learning and dedication to understanding soul journeys, soul agreements, soul contracts, soul missions, soul assignments. It's so incredible what we get to experience here. And so when my son was about 6, and I've learned now that many children under the age of 7 are still connected to the spirit world, have sometimes imaginary friends, which are actually guides from the other side, or angels or ancestors that are in spirit. We, in our society of needing to see it to believe it, dismiss those imaginary friends for those young children. And actually, they're more connected than we are as adults after all of our conditioning and our socializing and our language and our roles and our labels. The beauty and innocence of children is just so special. So when my son was 6, he said something to me that I didn't understand at the time, but I do now, that he and I have a very clear soul connection, a very clear soul contract to be in this incarnation together as mother and son. And as I mentioned, he came into my life through the process of adoption. And we adopted him at birth and got to know briefly his birth mother, met her in the day before and the actual day of his birth. The birth father flew in. He was long distance. He flew in for the birth, so we got to meet him as well very briefly. But prior to this adoption event, we had gone through fertility treatments, my husband at the time and I, and it was a very trying period for anyone that's been through it. It takes its toll. It definitely took its toll on me physically, emotionally, as well as our marriage and what I was able to feel and experience in that very clinical process of IVF treatments. Very scientific, very cold, very clinical. But in our third and final round of IVF treatments, we had 2 embryos that had made it in a petri dish to be implanted, potentially taken to term and birthed. And those embryos did not survive very long, a couple weeks. There was no explanation of what happened, what my body wasn't able to do. And of course, as maybe some of you can imagine, I felt like a failure. I felt like I was not fulfilling my role as a woman, being able to bring a child into this world and be a mom. It was a very difficult time, and yet I knew there was a way I was going to be a mom. I just knew it. So we began the paperwork for the process of adoption. And we had already discussed it. My husband at the time, he also was adopted. I was adopted. So adoption was always a viable alternative for us. So fast forward, my son is 6. I'm now divorced. And he and I are in our house together, and it's on a Sunday morning. We're just laying in bed chatting. And he would like to ask me about the embryos that were in my stomach before he came into my life. And he asked me if I named them. And I said, no, I hadn't gotten that far. They didn't last very long. They didn't quite make it. I said, but that was honestly a good thing, because then we were able to go through adoption and bring you into our life. And I get to be your mom because those embryos didn't make it. And he said to me with those big blue eyes and the pure truth and innocence of his incredible, wise 6-year-old mind, "Oh no, Mama, I would have found you anyway." And I had no idea what that meant until years later, as I studied and discovered more and more of past life regressions and life between lives and soul contracts that get determined ahead of an incarnation. And I've also learned from many experts out there that even when a soul enters a fetus, typically right before birth, and that fetus isn't viable or doesn't live very long, that soul will come back in some other way to be fulfilling the contract it made to be a part of that particular family. So his words of wisdom of, "Oh no, Mama, I would have found you anyway," that it didn't have to be through this particular adoption process. He would have found me anyway in this incarnation to be able to fulfill our soul contract with each other, to be in each other's lives in this particular evolution. It was one of the most beautiful examples of a soul contract and the reason why he and I are in each other's worlds today. There's always a reason for our benefit. I'm in his for his benefit. He's in mine for my benefit. And I get to experience unconditional love with him. And I believe he experiences unconditional love from me. I've had my moments where it wasn't very unconditional, I'll be honest, where, I would lose it here and there, as a typical parent does with a child. And believe me, I've apologized profusely for it. Yet I also say it was a brief moment of forgetting who I truly am and who he truly is in that moment. So I wanted to share this story, this experience I had of understanding now what a soul contract is with another, and how special it is, and how beautiful it is, and how amazing it is that it comes in various forms. And in my particular case, it came through the adoption process of my son. In many cases, it can come through marriage, with stepchildren joining a family. My son is now in the Navy, in the military, and he is a part of a bigger family, an extended family of military colleagues and veterans. It's a very special family that he now is a part of, that he's been, quote unquote, adopted into. And if you think about it, anyone that's been married has been adopted into their spouse's family. When you join a company, sometimes it's talked about you're a family. You're an adopted member of that family for that period of time. It's such a beautiful way of becoming a family structure, a unit, a cohesive organism, let's say, or part of an organization, right? To me, it's an organism. A family is an organism. A company is an organism. A marriage is an organism. There's so many ways that the experience of being adopted shows up. And soul contracts are involved in almost all of them. In some way, that best friend that you've had forever is a soul contract that you made before you came into this lifetime together. You're part of an extended soul family in spirit that said, hey, let's do this one this time. I'll be your best friend, and you'll be mine. That's a soul contract. For as long as you're in each other's lives, and it may not be for the whole incarnation, and that's perfect. People come into our life for a season. Whatever length of time that is, it's exactly orchestrated and designed to be that length of time. Thank you for joining me today in this field. Thank you for being with me in this soul circuit. And take what you heard today and the feeling that you have and let it remind you of who you already are. A powerful, creative, beautiful individual being who has so much to share with others. Until next time, stay plugged in.